Welcome to Parenting Teens with Dr. Cam, the podcast dedicated to helping you tackle the challenges of parenting teenagers without the drama. I'm your host, Dr. Cam. Let's get on with the show. Hey parents. Okay, I'm excited about today because I have 3 of my inner circle members with me. So if you are struggling with your teen and you're going, I don't know what to do, I think you're really going to relate to these 3. They have gone from not knowing what to do to doing some incredible connection and really learning how to work through struggles with their teens. So I don't want to go in too long. I want to introduce them, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to just go one by one, and if you guys can just say your name, the age of your kids, and maybe a little bit about what was going on before you contacted me. Heather, you want to go first while we've got you?
Sure. Hi. Yes. So it's been, I think, almost 3 years, and my son, who's 19 now, was struggling a lot with just processing his emotions and harming himself. And we were just in a really bad place. And I got on a Facebook group and searched for somebody and found you. And so we did counseling with Dr. Cam. And then when she started her inner circle over a year ago, joined immediately, and lots of great strategies with him. And then our now 13-year-old daughter as well. I use strategies that I've learned all the time with her.
I love it. Thank you, Heather. And we're going to come back to what those are. I know you've got a whole notebook, so I want to share that too. Lara.
Yeah, hello from London. So I have 2 boys, a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. And when I first came across Dr. Cam's podcast, I had just found out that the 15-year-old had been vaping at school and the 13-year-old was having major tantrums and had put a plastic bag on his head and said that he felt like giving up. And at that point, I luckily found Dr. Cam.
That's scary, right? You're like, I need help. Yeah. Maria.
Hey, I'm Maria. Mateo is 15 years old, and I have a 12-year-old as well. Heather's my friend, and she forced me to join. No, I'm just joking. Mateo has always had a difficult time with self-regulation. We've seen counselors off and on since he was 6. We're seeing a psychiatrist. I've read a lot of books. I've gone to a lot of sessions, and he started 9th grade this year, and I think he's still struggling, but I think it's getting better. And Heather saw me struggling. I forget what it was, but I went to her crying, and she was like, you have to join us. And so I did, but it was something that had, sent me overboard, and I had gone to Heather. And she suggested
I love that the 2 of you, and I know you guys talk about it still, you guys support one another. So it's lovely that you guys have each other all the time. But what was it like having a group? Because I know sometimes people are really resistant in sharing what's going on with them in a group, thinking no one else is going to understand. How has the group impacted you?
Well, for me, it meant that on a Wednesday, I knew that I'd have a space where I could chat about what had happened during the week. It also made me feel more accountable because we all are really honest with each other and there's no shame. And it meant that I was going to have to say I would explain what had happened, and I'd have the opportunity to hear from others. I didn't feel so alone because I heard that others were going through the same sorts of areas and issues that I was going through. And so it just gave me a sense that I was part of something bigger and that I wasn't struggling alone with this.
Did you guys feel that other people related to what you were going through, or that you related to what other people were going through?
Yes. I think it was, I guess the feelings were kind of the same. The situations might not always be the same, but it's like, oh, you felt guilty, or you felt shame, or you felt angry and didn't know what to do. So, but our situations might not be the same. It was also good to see kind of like London. I think we had somebody from Sweden. There's somebody from Hawaii. It is just everybody struggles, right? And some people have more. Like one woman was dealing with cancer and being a single parent and additional things. So it also made me feel, I guess, grateful that I don't have to deal with those things, because I can't imagine trying to do this by myself, because I rely a lot on Michael to kind of be the tougher one,
Yeah.
or the one who doesn't fall apart.
Yeah. And I know other people came in, I don't know if you guys felt this, but would come in and find that support that they might not be getting during the week. So when you're a single mom coming in and being like, okay, I'm getting that support that I'm not finding anywhere else, right? Heather, how about you? How did you feel being in the group? Were you resistant or apprehensive at all about joining a group?
No, not at all. Like, I just think I was happy to, not happy to be having to share, but I was happy to, be able to be in a group where I felt safe and could share what was going on without feeling embarrassed or like I had done something as a parent wrong. To get emotional.
Oh, so Heather, while you're talking, because I know we've been working together for a while and we've seen such a transformation. Can you share a little bit about what it looks like now compared to what it looked like before?
Yeah, I don't know why I'm so emotional, but yes, so different. I mean, and Maria knows because we talk, but just every situation, anything that comes up, 90% of the time, I can stop and think and reflect on strategies, go back to my spirals, and just kind of reflect and figure out how to approach whatever is going on, whether I need to do it then or wait a little bit or wait till the next day, just to give myself time to process how to respond to the kid, well, the adult now and the child. But a little example would be Emma, my 13-year-old, was in the kitchen Sunday. She'd gone home from being with friends, and I could hear her getting angry or upset. And Paul was in there, and I could hear more ruckus. And she just stomped up the stairs. And Paul came in, and I said, "What was that all about?" And he said, "Well, she was upset that I couldn't take her to Aldi." And then, so that upset her. And then she found out that all the cookies had been eaten. So that put her over the edge. So 13-year-old, going through just the emotions, she just was not in a state, she was just upset. And so I let her go up the stairs. And I think previously, like, gone up after her and been like, "Why are you so upset and mad?" And, blah, 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 blah. And instead, I just let her go up there, and I could hear her crying. But I knew she wasn't in a place to talk to me. And, 15 minutes later, I hear her laughing on the phone with her friends. She had gotten past that on her own.
Yeah. Lara, tell me a little bit about your situation, because I know we've been working together a while too. And how do you feel in terms of your confidence addressing some of the challenges with your teens now compared to before?
So I feel I have some tools that I didn't have before. One would be just feeling that you actually don't need to respond in the moment, and that you can say, "Let's discuss this tomorrow or later." Taking some time out and going into a safe space, even if that's just excusing myself to go to the bathroom as an excuse to calm down, and then going back into the situation. So definitely I've learned tools as well as breathing, having a mantra that I practice when I'm not in the situation, so that when I'm in the situation, I can do my mantra and breathe in. So it's helped me not be so reactive and just taking a step back, as well as definitely focusing on connection and less worrying and moaning about the small stuff. An example would be my son's room is a total mess, and I just close the door and ignore it. And once in a while, when it gets to the stage that I'd like him to clear it up, and then we speak about it. But it's not every day moaning, complaining, asking, when are you going to clean it up? When are you going to clean it up? Which would just deteriorate our connection. So that's one example. And
I love that one. And I know that the reactivity has been because we're afraid, we're worried. We've got so many things from as a parent that we're parenting from. And I think some of the stuff we talk about a lot, and I've seen with all of you, is a change in mindset and how you're approaching your kids and how you're viewing yourselves as parents. So there's less fear, I see. Do you guys agree with that? Maria, do you feel like there's less fear?
Yes, and I think one of the strategies I wanted to talk about was one day you talked to us about like focusing on one thing that you wanted your child to be good at, and it was because somebody had said, oh, you always have like, I want him to be this type of person, I want him to be kind, I want him to be, but then you're kind of all the time thinking, and you had a session on just picking one thing, and anytime you doubt it yourself, like, am I making the right decision, am I like, oh, or like you're not sure if this is right or what you should do, then you're like, okay, I'm trying to make him resilient, and this is my goal. And then it was like a quick way to make a decision and make yourself feel confident about it and not sway, because they can see that, and then they end up making you feel like, oh, well, that's not right, you know what I mean, like they end up being like, well, she can be persuaded or whatever. So I thought that was like super helpful. It hasn't always worked out for me, because remember we were talking about resilience, but I think it's been much better.
Well, Maria, I want to point out too, because I think this is true for all of us, and I'm a mom of a teen too. I share my own situations, right? And I think the really big thing is we look at this going, we're not going to come out of this suddenly having a perfect teen and fixing all their problems. This isn't about that. This is about what you just said, being intentional on how we approach things and understanding that they are going to struggle, but knowing how we move through that with them rather than feeling that need or feeling like we're failing when they're struggling. And I think that's one of the biggest difference. Lara, I'd love to hear about, because I know this was a big thing for you as well, and I think all of you we've dealt with this a lot, right? So Lara, from you, what has changed in your mindset in terms of how you approach with intentionality, just like Maria was talking about?
Yeah. So before I would be more controlling of the situation, and I've tried to control their behavior. And obviously, as they are teenagers, they want their own independence. And therefore, there was a lot of clashing between them wanting to get their way and me trying to get them to be more like I'd like them to be. So through these sessions, I've been able to let go and realize that whatever their choices they make, they will be okay, and I'll be there to support them along the way, but they need to make these choices and they need to learn from them. So a small little example, going back to the room, is the washing. So the dirty washing is now all over the floor. And before, I would have been even possibly taking the washing, putting it in the washing machine and washing it up. And now I don't. We discussed this. And Dr. Cam suggested just explaining that the kids now responsible for their washing, and if they don't do the washing, then they will understand the consequence of not having clean washing. And so it has happened that they wear dirty clothes, and I'm okay with that, and they're okay with that. And by letting them experience and see what the consequences are, let them play out, it helps them then, when making bigger decisions, to take responsibility and see how the consequences play out. So definitely that is one area that I have changed, just being less controlling. And another example was the one has private lessons, and he refuses to put his lessons in the calendar. So we spoke about this ahead of time, and I said, there will be a day when you miss the lesson that you've booked with your private instructor, and we will not be paying for that lesson when you miss it. We pay for all the lessons that are arranged and that you attend. And that day, there was a day and he missed it, and he called me and he was really upset and asking, what should I do? It's so much money. I've worked so hard. I don't want to have to pay for it. So he sent a message to his instructor, and she did say that she's going to charge him for the lesson. And when she saw that it was actually his money and not our bank account that the money had come from, she messaged him and said she'd give him an extra lesson for that. So that's just another example of where we've let him take on more responsibility and see through the results of, for example, not having a calendar and what could happen.
I love that. I think for control is a big thing that we've all been addressing, right? So now that, because a lot of what I teach is letting go of that control and giving more of ownership to our kids. From that perspective, because I think people are hesitant to do that because they feel like I'm going to feel out of control now. Do you feel more in control of the situation or less in control of the situation now that you've stepped back?
I feel less anxious because I'm building trust.
Yeah.
And control is when you don't trust, or when, at least I can speak for myself, I was checking phones because I wanted to see what was going on behind my back, or trying to understand better what was going on in their lives. And now I don't do that anymore. So, and giving up that control means there's space for something else. And that something else is building a relationship. I'm
gonna cry.
Heather, also feeling emotional.
I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, because it's just like, we've been through such times, and yeah.
I think the trust, Laura, is like, you totally hit it, right? Like, just that trust where they can just come and talk to you when they want. Like yesterday, Emma came down to get something, and we said something about school, and something got brought up about her counselor. And I was like, oh, how do you, I haven't heard about your counselor. Do you like her? And she's like, yeah, I see her. I go to her a lot. I was like, oh, you do? And she was like, yeah, like and she just started talking about her anxiety and how she, so we just listened, and I had no idea she was.
Hey, real quick, if anything we're talking about is hitting home and you're thinking, okay, but how do I actually do this with my own teen? Come check out the Inner Circle. Just go to askdrcam.com/inner circle to see what it's all about. All right, back to the show. I think what Heather was saying too, and what I've seen with all of you, is that it has opened up because you're spending less time on the trying to control, on the trying to fix them, and more time in trusting the process and saying they're learning. It's messy. It doesn't look good all the time. It's a struggle sometimes, but that's the process that they need to grow and develop. And being able to let go of that and leave room for, I want to be able to connect with them. Maria, how have you experienced that?
So I think trust is a continuum where Mateo will come and tell me some things about like friendships, and he'll be like, I don't understand why sometimes, like, why people don't like me. Why do they say they just don't like me? Like he'll invite a friend to like go rock climbing or airsoft, and there's always excuses and stuff. And so he does trust me about that. I don't want to just like not talk to him about it, but I try to say, well, what do you think that is about? School's a different story because of precedent that we've had, because he has flat out lied to both of us and has caused a lot of issues for us. And the thing is, we also, my husband and I, we don't want to be like on the parent view and checking, and we don't. So it's really hard because we're like, we really would rather not do that. But when he lies about things, we do have to go a little bit further and be like, well, I actually need to see that you submitted that, because you can say you submitted it, but we know based on experience you haven't. So, but I think he also understands that. I think our trust has grown, but I don't think it's like, oh, I trust him all the
I
time now.
wouldn't expect that,
Or it's just,
right?
yeah. And now, like, there was a situation where he went to a friend's house, Ray, a girl, and I was like, and I guess, I don't know, I said, we would rather you not be in a house without adults, boy or girl, right? Because something could happen. And my husband's like, he's a teenager. He's 15. He's in high school. Didn't you do that? And I was like, yes, but I don't want him making the same mistakes. So, and just this being a girl. And so I was like, okay. So he's like, can you drop me off at her house? And then we're walking to the mall because she lives in the apartments right by the mall. And so I dropped him off and, but I didn't I didn't ask if there was a parent there or can I talk to the mom? And so, I just have to trust him, right? And apparently you can check where your children are based on their phone. I don't know how to do that, but
I'm not a big fan of that either. Because here's the thing that's really hard. And I know, Maria, thank you for sharing that because I think a lot of people are going to relate to that, right? There's things our kids are going to do that we worry about. And I love when you said, I don't want him to make the same mistake I made. But as parents, we want to equip them with and help them learn critically, but it's not our job to not allow them to experience the same things we experienced, right? Because that's how we learned. So I think part of us is going, oh, well, I already learned the lesson. I can prevent you from having to learn it. And it doesn't translate that way, right? It's more of a, what have I learned from that experience that I can help teach him or prepare him or be aware of when he's going and making these choices as well, because that is the experience he needs. So one of the things we've talked about is trusting that they're going to do the best that they know how to do in the moment, and they're always going to choose the best choice they know how. And that's what we're trusting. Not that they're going to do what we want them to do, because they won't, but that they're going to make the best choice they can. And when we have a connection with them, we can help them learn how to think critically through even tough situations, which we cannot prevent, nor do we want to prevent them from going through, right?
Also, you have talked about before, like nobody knows the outcome of anything, right? So whatever choices they make, it could be a choice that we're like, oh, stressed and anxious about, but wow, turns out that was the best choice that he or she could have made.
Exactly.
So,
Or even, Heather, even when it's not like the best choice that they make, for example, getting totally drunk on New Year's Eve and then bringing up all over the car and having to leave the party early. So that wasn't a good choice. But they learned, he's learned the lesson since then and now won't touch alcohol. So even if it's not the best choice at the time, there's a reason that they're choosing that. And it's us letting them choose that, Dr. Karen, like you say, letting them have those experiences that we had.
yes.
Yeah. I always say, as soon as I learn to never make a bad choice is when I'll start getting angry at my daughter for making a bad choice. She is in the clear forever and ever and ever because I will continue to make bad choices. That's human. So getting upset for our kids for making bad choices, often the same bad choices we made, doesn't help them learn, right? But understanding and going, yeah, that sucks. That was not fun.
And I think letting them know that we trust them to make their own choices. Like Trevor's 19 now, and he's trying to figure out next year. He took a gap year and has been working, but he's going to Florida and he's still trying to figure it out. And we're just like, let us know. He's looking for apartments and we're like, just let us know. We're here, So he was showing us all these different places last night and, then he was done with us and Paul's like, oh, he's figuring it out. I'm like, yes, he is. Gotta trust that, he knows we're here.
Yeah. How does that feel when you're letting go a little bit and you're giving your kids ownership? How does that help or hinder maybe your own stress level?
I think I've learned that it's helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have said that 3 years ago, right? But I think we've got to let them make their choices. And, until they leave our houses, let them make the choices. And as you know, there have been some very poor choices, but he's learned from them and did them under our roof. So I feel,
Yeah.
you know, glad that we were there to help him through those. But no, I don't think I'm going to miss him and I'm sad, but I don't think I'm anxious with um, the decision making process that he's going through now because he knows we're here if he needs us.
Yeah. Can you guys share if somebody's listening to this and going, this sounds interesting, but I'm not sure. What would you tell somebody that's considering joining either this inner circle or joining a group to really help them with their parenting and help them with their relationship with their teen?
I would say that personally, I wish I would have had it before. When they were babies, we had parenting support groups. Then through nursery school, kindergarten, you meet parents and you kind of form your own parenting groups. And suddenly you're thrown into the teenage years. And some teenagers act out and some act out in different ways and some don't act out at all. But it's just a whole new stage of their life, and feeling that you have someone to speak to and other parents that can share what they're going through and offer advice. And you've got Dr. Cam there with all of her experience, and it's just made a huge difference to me. So I would say definitely go for it.
And I know you were a little hesitant at first, and you've been there every week pretty much. So
Are you still
wonderful.
there, Laura? Are you still there?
Yeah, I still am. Yeah, I still am.
Yeah. Maria, how about you? What would you say to somebody that's thinking about this?
I would say definitely give it a try. And like Laura said, for teenagers, it's just spread out because I do feel, before you kind of have like a little group of people because you're in the same elementary school. And then even while they might go to the same middle school, it's like kids have different interests and they're becoming adults. And the things that they're doing have more consequences. And as a parent, you're like, that's so embarrassing, like your child is not able to like look somebody in the face and say, oh, hi, how are you doing? But now you understand that's like, oh, it's a sensory disorder or like it's part of how they cope with people. But I think it's hard when it's not the standard. So being in a group where there might be other people whose children do not act the standard way, and who might have some things that are like, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. Like, what are people going to say? Or like, it's good to just talk about it. It hasn't changed, right? He's still, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, can you please like look somebody in the face and say, hi, how are you? Instead of being like, so it's helpful as they grow up and become teenagers. And it's good like to see Heather's situation where her son is off and he's, gotten over the big self-harm thing and not continued it, or like, what could have happened and stuff. So
I love that. Heather, how about you?
I mean, if someone were on the fence or just sharing with me their concerns, I would say, well, what you've been doing, is it working? It seems maybe it isn't if you're asking. So why not just come join us? And I would say, I told Maria, you have to join.
I was going to say, you've already done that.
Literally did.
Like, she will help you. No, just the strategies. Just like, even if you take away one strategy, right? Like, I have 3 spiral notebooks of notes from our year. What do you have to lose? I would say, I mean, you can be in a group and not have your video on. You don't have to. You've had participants who don't talk. We know they're there because we can see their name. But you don't have to say anything. You don't have to be seen. So I mean, it's been life-changing, really. And just the trust that what I was talking about earlier. Emma like trusted us to open up about all this last night, and even some stuff that with some acquaintances that do things at school. And, we just listened. And after like 10 or 15 minutes, she's like, okay, I'm done. She went upstairs. It's almost like, she's like, okay, I've really opened up, enough.
Yeah.
But we'll go back to some of the things, the anxiety that she was talking about, and kind of validate that some more with her and see if we can do any problem solving
I love
together
that.
to help or not.
One of the reasons I really wanted the three of you guys on too is because I have just loved watching the transformation you guys have made. And you're all people that show up, and it's not about complaining constantly about your teen. And yes, we share things and frustrations, and we are going to say things like that because it is frustrating. But it hasn't been a just validate me for being upset with my teen. It's been, how do I change my approach and understand my teen? And all three of you have been so powerful in doing that. And that's where the transformation comes in. And so I think for people thinking about this, the one thing we want to make sure is that the people in there are like you guys, who are going, it is messy. I'm not going to figure this out. I am struggling with things, but I'm going to take accountability for my piece of it. And I'm going to keep learning and showing up and keep figuring this out. And that's what makes all the difference with all three of you. So I really want to thank you guys for coming on and sharing your stories. I love seeing your faces. Love doing this on a regular basis, weekly with you guys. Anything that you want to say before we go to people listening?
Yeah, something to pick up on that's been mentioned is listening. And Heather, when your daughter came and told you what she just told you last night, you just listened. And that's something that I am learning to do more, and I do need to do more of that. Instead of offering advice or explaining how I would do it, you can just listen. And something else that I've learned is just agreeing with them, so they could say, oh, this is so terrible, this sucks. And it's like, yeah, you're right, it does. You don't need to try and change that situation. But it is, like you said, Dr. Cam, messy and a process, and we're all still in it. But it's a lot better than it. Like, I just feel that I'm more prepared. I don't know what's around the corner, but I'm more prepared for what is. Like, I trust myself more that I will be able to cope, and that I'm not going to go in shouting at them or doing something that afterwards I feel so bad that I shouted or lost my temper or I said something that I shouldn't have. And we all do that. It just is happening so much less now.
And I feel like we're always going to sometimes do that, right? This isn't like, so I feel like when I do that, I've gotten better at being like, I'm really sorry. Like, I did not handle that well, and owning up to reactions that, could have been better.
You're all very much more self-aware of what you're
Yes.
bringing to the relationship.
Yes. And can I just add one more thing too?
Absolutely.
Like, even like we talk about like the smaller things day in and day out, like the laundry or that's the smaller things. But then when there are big things, which we've all been through, we went through something about a month ago with Trevor, and it was hard, but I got out my spiral. Well, spiral number 3. And I looked back through all my notes and I wrote down my key things that we were going to talk about. And it went really well. And it was, just again, that kind of listening, that kind of saying, okay, well, I get it, but this part we're not okay with.
Yeah.
What can we do moving forward? So just that kind of revisiting notes too, like, because we get so much good advice in our meetings with you, but I feel like if I don't, when it comes up in the moment, it might not be right there. So I encourage everyone to take notes too, because going back and looking and, it just is really.
Yeah. And we got to remember this is a skill. So it's like any other class where you're going to learn, and we're breaking habits too. And I think for all of you, that's one of the things I've seen, that where it's been like every week, it's a little bit less of the habit you had and more of the new habit. And it's just repetition and reminder and awareness. And it gets more and more automatic with you guys, but it does. It's not like you learn it and you do it. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of going back and saying, okay, that didn't work. Why didn't that work? What could I do differently next time? All right. I'm going to let you guys go back to your lives. Thank you so much for joining me again. I really, really appreciate you sharing your stories. And I can tell, I already know everyone's relating to your stories.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
If today's episode gave you a few light bulb moments and you're all ready to start shifting things at your own home, I'd love to support you inside the Inner Circle. You don't have to do this alone. Just go to askdrcam.com/inner circle to join us.